Hello, yay, you've made it. The last video. All right, the last video of this week, okay? This is the third part of the emotional intelligence lecture. And today, or for this video, we will be looking at slides 14 through 17, the last bit here. So let me share my screen. Sorry, this little thing that my computer is on is really wonky. It's off balance. All right, here are the slides we're looking at. We're going to start with, we're going to talk about wise choices and how the creator mindset and language leads us to wise choices. And we're going to look at the wise choice wheel, how that happens, and how wise choices lead us to taking responsibility for our feelings, our actions, and our reactions, and responses. Okay, so that also responses, reactions, and responses, and we'll talk about the difference between those two. All right, so just to recap the creator and victim language. The victim language is limiting. It boxes us in. It makes us have less power over any situation we're in than we really actually do have. And some of the words that a victim, we'll just call them a victim. I think that's a little harsh, but that's what OnCourse calls them. So that kind of victim language, some of the words that are within that are the words I can't or I can, and I shouldn't or I should. And then there are two others that are less important, but I will go over them, and that's because and but with one T. Okay, so let me give you an example of that worked for me with can't and can. Okay, because it sounds kind of, silly to not be able to use those words. So there are some things that I cannot do. OnCourse uses the example, I cannot fly an airplane. Okay, and I know that I can't. And then there are other things that I actually can do, but I haven't allowed myself to try, or I haven't allowed myself to, or I'm using I can't in place of words, more empowering words. Okay, so when I first started trying to locate victim language, I tried it first at the gym. And for me, that was a really great place to like practice this, to pay attention to the times where I use victim language, because I really don't like squats. And I also do spin classes sometimes. It doesn't really matter. Exercise in general. When I get uncomfortable, the victim wants to come out. Okay. So I remember there was one class where we'd have to do something like 100 squats in a row. And so I started practicing this whole thing. It was when I very first was exposed to OnCourse. So I was practicing this. And as I was going down, I don't know, could have been number like 3 or number 47. I have no idea. But at some point I said, I can't do any more squats. This was in my head. I can't do any more squats. I can't do any more squats. I can't do any more squats. And some good music outside. I don't know if you can hear that. Sorry, I live in the city. It's bound to happen. Okay, so this loop, I can't, is playing in my head. And then I thought, aha, OnCourse, I'm using victim language. Let's see. What do I want to say in place of I can't? So I said the truth. I said, I don't want to do another squat. Once I said the truth, I was like, now I can make a choice of whether or not I'm going to do another squat. So that led me from going from I can't to I actually don't want to I won't do another one. I'll just rest here for a little bit. And there have been times where I've said I can't, and then I've said I don't want to, and then I have said, but I will. Okay, so we see that pathway, that transformation of language and how it transfers into our actions. The should and the shouldn't is really just kind of judgmental. And I do it all the time when I'm like, oh man, I should have, I should have left a little earlier, or I should have made my lunch, and took it to work instead of, in the middle of the day going and spending a bunch of money. So the should and shouldn't is actually based on the past, or it's based on some like future outcome that, it's not present moment talk. It's not what's going on right now. So instead of should or shouldn't, when we do, and it's not to say like we're not going to use those words or whatever, but when we do, let it be a trigger or a cue to move into I will or I won't. Because I will, and then, I am doing this, or I'm, give it a time frame, a specific time frame. I will do this tomorrow, or I will do this in 10 minutes. That at least gives us some power to start taking action. Okay? Now, with because and but. These are, they have less of a punch in terms of victim language, but a victim may use because as a way to give some kind of excuse of why something didn't happen. And there's really a lot of power in being able to just speak the truth and speak directly, and to leave it at that. I don't know it. I struggle with this often too, but instead of saying I couldn't hand in my paper yesterday because, fill in the blank. We all have, and those are a real life thing may have happened. It may be a fact that a real life thing happened, and we want to give that reasoning for why we weren't doing it, or why we didn't hand in the assignment or whatever. But a really powerful, and we have to use discernment to decide, is this a time where I really want to give a reason, or am I trying to get out of something? Am I trying to make it better without taking responsibility and leaving it at that? So, a challenge is to, instead of saying I didn't finish my assignment because, one way we could go about doing that is saying, I didn't turn in my assignment, although I knew that it was due. Something came up and I'm really sorry. And I'm aware of it. I just, I want to let you know that I'm aware that I didn't hand in the assignment. At that point, an instructor may offer you, something, or they may not, and they may just really appreciate that you're letting them know the truth. Or you can be brave and knowing that the answer no is very feasible if they don't take late work like me. Still go ahead and ask a question. Like, I'm aware that I didn't hand in my introduction letter on time, and I'm really sorry that I didn't do that, because I am aware now that or I was mistaken, or something just really simple. And then saying, just by any chance, is there a way to make it up or hand it in late? That really gives you a sense of power, because even if the instructor says no, you know that you are clear, direct, and honest about something, okay? And then but, with one T, is often used to challenge ourselves in a negative way. So I would do that, but, right? I would, but. Have you ever tried to make plans with somebody who uses that? I would, but. It's really frustrating, right? So when we're not doing a contrast, like a true contrast, but instead we're using it as like a delay tactic, or as I would do another squat, but my leg really hurts, which could be a fact. But instead, eventually, maybe we can just get right to, I'm not going to do another squat. That's the end. That's, I think, kind of a great challenge, a really interesting homework to take home with us. Okay, now we said in the last video that in order to transform victim language into creator language, we take responsibility or ownership over the situation in some way, and then we choose the next right action, just the one that feels right for right now. We don't have to go all the way in the future and like correct everything. Just right now, what's the next right step? Okay. So we're going to move on to wise choices and just look at what wise choices offer us. We're invited to make some great choices from a place of empowerment if we are in the growth mindset using creator language. There are so many obstacles in life. That's true. That's just a fact. That's true. But creator mindsets, people with the creator language and the growth mindset, they look at these obstacles and they really want to meet these obstacles or these challenges with wisdom, with insight, with just enough energy, not too much. They don't want to, go from 0 to 100 because we might lose motivation that way, but just with the right amount of energy and pace to make a great choice. So we might ask ourselves, under these obstacles, with all this emotion coming to the surface, how do we make a wise choice? Well, something we need to know about wise choices is that wise choices involve, again, taking responsibility. But we're taking responsibility for our feelings, our actions, and our reactions. And you can put in the same line as reactions our responses. Okay, we said that earlier. So, the difference between a response and a reaction is that a reaction is like a trigger. It's like we don't even have space or time to really come up with a response that feels empowering for us. Some of these reactions could be when we notice the grade we got on a paper or on an exam, and our first reaction is to get down on ourselves, judge ourselves, or judge the instructor, or judge the assignment. Or maybe we don't even, have a big reaction, but we carry that energy when we get home. And then we're grumbling to, our family members or our roommates, and we're just in a bad mood and we're sort of just reacting. It's autopilot, okay? Something didn't feel good. Something triggered us. And then we react to it in a way that doesn't transform the experience, doesn't offer us an opportunity to make the next right step or a wise choice. Instead, we're shutting down, we're closing off, and we are emotional in our choices. Okay, and oftentimes we don't even know that we have choices. We're just reacting. Now, a response is a different way to go about meeting these triggers or these kind of painful or disappointing experiences or highly emotionally charged experiences. So, when we're angry, sad, stressed, or feeling negative about anything, we need to really pause and think about what's the behavior or the action that I want to take? So these are the questions that we can start to ask ourselves in a moment. And look, if we don't know this, it takes a little bit to remember to do this. But once it's in your awareness, it will be there. Okay, if you open to it and you say, okay, I'd like to try that. You will be aware, and that's what emotional intelligence is all about. Is we get better. It's like any skill, really. We practice and practice and practice until we are, that skill is nice and strong. Okay. So some of the questions you can ask yourself in a moment of like, oh, this doesn't feel good. Oh, I'm disappointed. I'm stressed or whatever. Ask ourselves, after, maybe even after we react, did I pause, or can I pause now? Can I take a breath? Okay. Get slow, quiet. We ask ourselves, did I consider the other perspectives of the other person, or did I consider any other perspectives that I may have about this difficult test? Maybe another perspective is that I tried really hard. I studied. Maybe that's a perspective. Okay. Does this need a response? Now, if we're being triggered from an outside source, like a test from an instructor, or somebody, a roommate, saying something that isn't very uplifting or encouraging, a classmate, maybe belittling or something. I'm creating all kinds of dramatic scenarios here, but you know your own life, and you know what kind of scenarios happen and play out for you, and which ones really push those buttons. So if it's coming from outside in, we can ask ourselves some really wise questions. Does this need a response? Do I need to respond to this right now? Or can I let it pass? And once we've taken a breath, we've paused, we've gotten quiet, we've slowed down, it becomes a lot more clear whether or not we really need to respond. Then we can ask ourselves, does this need a response for me right now? Or can it wait 24 hours? Can it wait until my emotions have sort of settled? And then the next question we can ask ourselves, do I need to be the one that responds to this? Can I allow this lesson to be this other person's lesson? Can I allow this lesson to, or can I let this experience here, can I let it go? Is it really important to me? So that way we're putting ourselves and what we want and who we are all in check with that self-awareness, okay? And we are also aware of our environment and the emotional state of the environment of others, so that we know where we are, we know where others are, and they don't mix, and we don't take on somebody else's crap, and we don't shove it on somebody else, okay? And that's really at the core of practicing emotional intelligence. Oh no, I didn't realize. So when I turned the my slides into PDFs, it gets all over the place. Okay, so let me explain this to you. Awareness, this arrow should be in the middle. I think that's all that is really happening. It should go from success to awareness. So it kind of flipped a little. So this is the wise choice wheel, and this is how it works. So once we're aware of our emotions, we pause, we ask ourselves the questions, we interact in a way that feels empowering for us and clear. We're speaking with clarity. Or we are about to speak with clarity. We take an action that is also clear and is wise. And that action doesn't promise us success. Okay, we have to get used to the fact that things that we do don't always bring us success. Sometimes we fail. And failure is a really good thing. It's a learning lesson. It's an indicator for that we're close to success. Okay, so we need to be done with the old definition of failure, that failure and success are in competition with each other, that they're opposites, that we're one or the other. Okay, that's old. That's an old paradigm. Now what we look at is, oh, okay, I failed here. This gives me really rich content and a lot of lessons. If I sit down and look here, I'm going to find what I need. And that takes me one step closer to success. And sometimes that takes me straight into success the next time around. Okay, so when we make a wise action, we're not promised success. We're not promised that we're going to get the outcome we want. But, regardless, if we're using the wise choice wheel and we're aware and we're pausing and we're acting in our own power and we're taking that action that is powerful for us, even if it's just one baby step, it's 1%, okay, 1% step, it's going to lead us to success or failure, which, if we're self-aware, if we're using our awareness, we can study the success and the failure to take us next time into awareness when something comes up that triggers us, or that success brings us into the awareness of, ooh, that feels really good. I like the way that I responded there. That was wonderful. And there builds confidence. Either way, we build confidence. We tend to think we have confidence because we're always successful, but that wasn't true in my life. All the failures that I had, actually, I looked back, I survived, right? I survived. And then I kept going and eventually found success quickly, sometimes slowly. And that's where the confidence came from. Confidence in knowing that I can teach myself. I can learn this, okay? Even if it takes me forever, I can learn this. So that is the end of this lecture. I really did mean to tell you a little bit more about my schooling and some of the wisdom that I learned from my teachers. But I'm going to let that come out naturally throughout the videos. And I feel that you got some really good material and that I've also given talked enough at this point. So if you are interested in my experience and in connecting that way, always feel free to come to my office and grab some cookies or some tea, and we can chat during my office hours. But I really encourage you to take this stuff into your lives and apply it to your other classes and your experience this semester, because that's where the rich material is, and that's where the learning really happens. So I'm really proud of you all for getting through all the videos and for sticking with me into week 3. And we'll continue on to goals next week. So don't forget to take the reading quiz on Canvas. That's really important. And email me with any questions or send me a reminder. All right? Thanks. I really enjoyed this, and I will be speaking to you again soon. Bye, guys. See you later.